I have a question.
We are going to ask you to stay muted throughout the whole tour, and please place any questions in the chat box. Okay, hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the virtual farm field trip. We are live today in Corvallis, Oregon at Oregon State University Honeybee Lab. My name is Brittany, and I will be the moderator today. Before we start our tour today, I wanted to go over a few logistics to make sure we have a great experience. We've muted everyone, and everyone will remain muted throughout the whole tour so everyone can hear our tour guide clearly. If you have any questions, you can send them to us using the chat feature or using the form below the video if you're on our website. Please only type in questions to us in the chat. This will help us see all the questions and ask as many as possible. It is now my pleasure to introduce our host and tour guide for today's virtual field trip, Caroline Brees. Caroline is a beekeeper, a honeybee scientist and researcher at Oregon State University Honeybee Lab, and is here today to teach us all about honeybees. Take it away, Caroline.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Carolyn Brees from OSU, and I'm really excited to have you here in the apiary. We haven't had a tour in over a year, and so I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. So you are in our educational apiary, and can you pan around a little bit just so we can take a look? What we're going to do today is go through and talk about all of these different hives that we have here. There are all kinds of quirky, weird hives that we have. And then we also have the standard colonies that most backyard beekeepers and commercial beekeepers have in their apiaries. But before we get started with that, let's talk a little bit about bees. So I want you guys to think about what you love the most about honeybees. So maybe write it down, maybe think in your head, when you think of a honeybee, what do you think of? And what do you love about them? So did anybody think of honey? There are lots of different kinds of honey. Blackberry honey, clover honey, orange blossom honey, and the honeys are not flavored, but the blackberry is the blossom that the bees went to make the honey. So so we have all these different kinds of varieties of honey, and that's what makes bees so exciting, that they have all these different honey flavors that we love on our toast and in our tea. Did anybody think of beeswax? Beeswax candles, they smell so good and they make such a beautiful light. It's a warm, nice glow, and beeswax candles are really great and very natural. Okay, did anybody think of carrots? Or how about blueberries or apples or pears? Did you think of that when you thought of what you love about honeybees? Maybe or maybe not, but honeybees are so important for all of those fruits and vegetables, and that's because they're absolutely crucial for pollination. So they pollinate some of our most nutritious crops, our superfoods. So what pollination is a honeybee will take pollen from one flower, deliver it to another, and that flower will fertilize and create a fruit or a seed. So when you think of apples and cherries and pears on a tree, you see the blossom and then it fruits. But you might not think of that with carrots, because carrots are a root, but bees are so important for carrot seed. So we need the carrots to flower, and the bees will pollinate carrots. So carrots, radishes, cabbage, these are all really important crops, and they're all dependent on honeybee pollination. So come check this out. If you live in Oregon, and if you live on the west side, between Salem and Eugene, you may see these beautiful white fields along I-5, and they're like blinding white, and that's meadow foam. So this is a variety of meadow foam that isn't the purely white kind. This is an ornamental meadow foam. So it's also called a poached egg plant or flower. And this is pollinated by honeybees, and in its commercial sense. So that those fields with that blinding white flower, that's what this is. And honeybees need to go from flower to pollinate it, and it creates a seed, and that seed is used for oil. Like they press the oil to make cosmetics or food grade lubricants and stuff like that. So it's a really important crop in Oregon, and it makes the best honey. The honey from meadow foam tastes like toasted marshmallow or vanilla, and so you should taste it sometime. You will definitely tell a difference between this and blackberry honey. So this is meadow foam, and there's so many different crops that are very important for pollination. So when beekeepers pollinate these crops, they usually take these standard boxes. So this is called a 10-frame Langstroth hive, and that's just named after the person. It was a person back in the 1800s that found this special box size to be perfect for bees. So you can fit this on a semi-truck with 400 others of the same size and truck them from meadow foam to clover to carrot seed, and then almonds and apples and pears and cherries. And so it goes on and on and on. So beekeepers travel all over the state to pollinate with these boxes. So this is just your standard style. This is a honey super. So these two boxes are for the brood or the babies, and then everything else can go, all the extra honey goes up here, and this is extra, and this is for humans. So we get to take their extra honey. Lucky us. This hive over here is very similar. It's a little bit narrower, but this is mostly for backyarders because of this domed or this peaked roof. It can't travel on trucks very well. So this is really pretty for a garden and not so great for travel. But what's really fun about this is called the flow hive, and it has these chambers in here. And this is like a plastic comb, and it's not populated with bees yet. They're still growing into it, but once the blackberries bloom, this thing will explode with bees, tons of bees. And then this will be a little tricky, but if you come around here, there's another window, and these are the flow frames. You can see the little bees, they're trying to peek out, but they can't get out. They're gonna seal this little crack with propolis. That's what this red stuff is. It's like bee glue. So that little space is not gonna work out for them. So they're gonna gather the resin from plants and plug this up. Oops. Anyway, so this is like plastic comb, and they'll fill honey with this comb, and then all we have to do is take a tube, turn this little knob, and then honey will flow out of these frames and into your jar. So come back and see us in August, and we'll do this. Okay, let's go around here. Let's look at these. These are our little, we call these Barbie nukes. A nuke is a nucleus colony, which means like the very beginning of a colony. So we call them Barbie nukes because they're so colorful and small and adorable. This is for queen rearing. So if we need to make a queen, then we'll raise them in another hive and we'll put them here for when they need to mate and grow. So we love these because they're just so colorful. Here's some more around here. And so somewhere in the air, probably at this point, we have some queens mating and ready to, they'll be put in new hives. So let's see,
we do have a few questions for you as we move to our next location.
Yeah.
How many honeybees do you have?
Oh my goodness. Okay, each hive has about 60,000 honeybees inside. So there's one queen, maybe 500 drones, maybe 1,000 depending on the time of year, and all the rest are workers. So those are the daughters of the queen, and they're all sisters. So we have about 50 colonies amongst all of our apiaries at this point. So math whizzes, what's 60,000 times 50? That's how many bees we have. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is called a top bar hive, and this is a long hive there are no bees in here, but we will soon put a swarm in here. This is kind of nice because this is a way to keep bees in developing countries. So you don't need special measurements like we had seen over there with the special boxes. This is all horizontal, so the bees grow this way, and it's a lot of fun. So this is a Kenyan or Tanzanian top bar hive. And then over here, this is called a ware hive. And this one, oh, let's go behind here because I think we have a window. Again, there's no bees in here, but there was once, and they left behind a bunch of honey. You can see the honeycomb. And sometimes when you leave these out, a new swarm will come in and populate it. So this is a kind of an alternative hive for beekeepers. It's adorable with the little roof, and it just looks really nice, but it's also fun. These combs extend all the way down, and you add to the boxes by putting a box underneath. Okay, so we're going to cross the yard. Are there any other questions?
Yes. So if the queen bee, how do they determine who the next queen is?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. You know, I'm not sure scientists even know the answer to that. They pick a young enough larva, and they feed that larva a ton of royal jelly. But we don't exactly know the real reason why they pick one over another. That's going to take a lot of research that maybe you could do when you get older and become a bee scientist. That's a really good question. This hive here is, it's called a Valhalla hive, and it is also a horizontal hive. So the bees enter here, and they extend all the way over here. So here's another little window. These windows are lots of fun because it's raining right now. Oh, we have a whole colony of ants here too. So this is super cool. Look at all these eggs and ants. Okay, we'll just brush them off because we want to see the bees, and the ants will probably come right back. The ants don't bother the bees at all, so we don't have to worry about them. But can you see the bees in here? They're building a little bit of comb on the window, and they're all kind of just hanging on each other. And up here are where the combs are. So they're raising brood, babies, possibly a queen if they needed one. So this is kind of a fun hive because this is low and very accessible to people. So if you're in a wheelchair, you can keep bees. This hive was designed by somebody in a wheelchair. So we love this hive. Look at these ants. See, they're carrying their eggs. Okay. Any questions as we go to the next one?
Yes. How old can a bee get?
Ooh, that's another good one. So a worker bee can be anywhere from 6 months to 4 weeks old. So if it were born in October, that would be a winter bee. So that bee could survive all through the winter. It won't fly. It'll stay home, cluster up in a ball to keep the colony warm, and so it doesn't wear out its wings, and it lives a lot longer. And there's it lives longer. So if it is a summer bee and it is foraging every single day, trying to get all that nectar, flying back and forth and back and forth, it's using a lot of energy. Those live for about 4 to 6 weeks. So it varies a lot. A queen can live up to 3 years. So very different. Okay. Let's go to the skep. Okay. So this hive is really fun. You may recognize this kind of a hive from medieval times. This is how we had hives. Back in those days, in old pictures, you might have seen these. They're made of straw. And they're great for bees, but the only way to get the honey would be to destroy the colony. So that's why we have these boxes now, because we can move the frames up and down, in and out, we can exchange them, and we can extract the honey without hurting the bees. This we used to have bees in, and they also died. It was a hard winter for us, so that's why you're seeing all these empty hives. But the great thing about these empty hives is we can see. So this is an open bottom, and you can see the comb and how they lived. And what's really neat is they built this all by themselves with no guides, and so everything is perfectly parallel, and they're all perfectly spaced. If there were too much space, like if this were a wider gap, they would fill that with comb. And if it were a smaller space, they would fill it with propolis, which is that red stuff, remember we talked about back there. It's that bee glue. So if the space is too small, they glue it. If it's too big, they'll build more wax. So I love being able to see this. I think this is one of the coolest, that the thing I'm telling you about, that space, is called bee space, that special width. And that bee space is the amount of space that bees need to be able to pass each other and to work. And that was discovered by some guy who just started watching bees all day long. And that changed the entire industry of beekeeping. So we went from these to all these boxes. So that's one of my favorite things about beekeeping. So that's a step. It's lots of fun when bees are flying, and also when it's empty. Okay, so do we have time to open one? Okay, cool. So we're going to open a hive, and we're going to open this one. This is a pagoda hive. This is our brand new hive. The entrance is right here. This was donated by a couple in Portland, and they made it out of a deck. So they took cedar from a deck, and they made this beautiful hive. It's in the shape of a hexagon. So maybe you know this, but honeycomb is made from hexagons, and hexagons are they are the most efficient shape for holding liquids. You can put hexagons together more efficiently than circles, anything. So they hold more than any other shape. And it's a very strong shape as well. So I'm going to put on my veil. So even if bees are gentle, they like dark things, so they'll go for your eyes. And we don't want that. Oops, this might make some noise. Okay. So we just want to protect our face while we keep bees. Sometimes you need a full suit. I have a suit with me if I need it, if the bees are getting cranky. It's getting a little bit cooler, but they were so gentle. So I'm just going to try to do this right now. I have a smoker with me. So a smoker, the smoke calms the bees, and you'll see it's really amazing how the effect that smoke has. It masks their alarm pheromones, and it also, for some reason, we see the bees eating honey like crazy once we smoke them. So let's watch what happens. Okay, I'm going to put it on a stone here. Okay, so this is fun because the lid turns into a stand. And then we have a feeder. The bees can drink some sugar syrup if they need it, and they don't really right now. They have enough flowers right now. Okay, there they are. So, so here you can see them just kind of milling around, and sometimes they'll meet each other and they'll touch tongues. And that is called trophallaxis, and that means they're exchanging pheromones and food. It's their way of communicating. They also do that with their antennae. So I'm going to give them a little smoke. It doesn't take a lot. See how they move? They move down. Okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to move the frames a little bit apart, and we'll pull up. Actually, I'm going to take this end one first. just to give us some space. I'm holding a hive tool in my hand, which is like a crowbar. And it's one of the most important tools for a beekeeper because bees really like to glue down their frames. Okay, there they are. So you can see they built, so this hive came, this black part here was some foundation. It's like a print of honeycomb that they build wax from, and then they can freely do it on their own down here. And you can see this new, brand new comb. We can tell it's brand new because it's white. And it starts to turn yellow once bees walk on it and they fill it with honey. Okay. All that liquid in there is nectar, and they will evaporate that nectar until it becomes a certain percentage of water, and then they'll turn it into honey. They mix enzymes with it, and we only extract it once it's capped, because then we know for sure it's honey and not just nectar. Okay, so let's go straight for the middle, because that's where they raise the young and where things get pretty exciting. Nice and slow. Bees really like slow movements. Okay, this is a really fun frame. This is the capped honey. So anything under here is officially called honey. This open stuff is still nectar. They still need to work it a little bit until it's ready to be called honey. And they're eating it. I wish we could give you a taste. Then I don't know if you can see, but there's a ton of little tiny larvae in there. They're like little worms. Those are baby bees. Oh, and look what else we have on the frame. Lucky us. The queen is right here. We paint her with a little dot on her thorax. That's what the middle section of an insect is called, the thorax. And we paint it so we can easily find her. But even if she didn't have that dot on her, see her shape? It's very different from her daughters. So she's got that really long abdomen, that end part. And she's moving around. She's just looking for another place to lay eggs. And you can see her kind of a circle of bees around her as she walks. They're all taking care of her. They feed her. She doesn't eat by herself. Her daughters will feed her, and they'll groom her, and they'll do everything for her. So all she has to do is lay eggs. So that's the queen, and she's doing a really great job. These all are really healthy looking larvae here. So before I put it back, I don't like it when she's on the edge because I don't want to squish her. So we'll just guide her towards the middle. Oh, maybe we can have her drop down to there we go. Okay, so she just went right down there. Good. So now we don't have to worry about her so much. She's very special. If we lose the queen, then the colony has to raise a new one, and it takes a long time. This frame in that yellow part, those are all eggs. Those little tiny grains of rice, those are eggs. And if we only saw these eggs in the hive, we would know the queen is there because the eggs are eggs for 3 days. And so we know a queen has been in here in the last 3 days. And so we wouldn't have to go through the whole colony to try to find her. But lucky for us, we did. So this colony here, there's brood throughout here. There's lots of honey at the top. Blackberries are blooming. I saw just a few blooms, but if the sun comes out and we have more of these 70-degree days, then the blackberries will start blooming in a big way, and they're going to need more room. If they didn't have enough room, they would swarm. They would get too crowded. They'll raise a new queen, and half of them have to, well, there's a different percentage always, but about half will go fly up in the sky and then find a branch to land on and there'll be a swarm. And that's just their colony's way of reproducing. And so to prevent that, we need to give them extra room. So since we know that this is full and that blackberries are blooming soon, so they'll need a place to put all that honey, we'll put another box on top. I have one here. How are we doing on time?
We have about 4 minutes left and we have quite a few questions coming in.
Let's do the questions. Okay, I'll put this back while we ask questions. Okay.
Okay. Are the bees still able to sting or bite when they have been smoked? And have you ever got stung by a bee?
I get stung just about every day. I get stung a lot, but it doesn't, because I get stung so much, I don't swell anymore. It always hurts, but I don't, you know how you get a puffy hand or a puffy foot if you get stung. So that doesn't happen anymore, but they sure do hurt. But I try to be really careful, and smoke calms them. So it's really important to use smoke. It's really important to move slowly. And smoke, they can still sting after they've been smoked, for sure.
And are bees going extinct?
Oh, they're not going extinct, but they are in trouble. They have a lot of pests. They have diseases. They're faced with pesticides on farms and in gardens that can affect them. So they'll bring the pollen home that has been affected with pesticides, and they bring it back to the whole colony. And so lots of trouble. There is a lot of trouble that they're faced with, but they're not quite going extinct. That's why we're here as the Honeybee Lab. We're trying to find ways to keep them healthy and keep them persisting. And there's bee labs all over the country that are doing the same thing.
And how many babies can a queen have at once?
She can lay, in the peak of summer, she can lay 2,000 eggs a day. So math whizzes, 2,000 times, let's do 30 days in peak season. And that's how many in that season. But the queen is very productive and can lay a lot of eggs.
How do bees build the honeycomb?
That's a good one. They have glands on the underside of their abdomen, which is the end part, the striped part. So it's their belly, kind of. And so it oozes out these wax flakes. They look like fish scales. And the other bees will collect all of those scales, kind of chew them up with their mouths, and they'll construct those beautiful combs. And I don't know how they do it, but they're perfect hexagons. It's one of the most amazing things about bees.
And why do bees die when they sting you?
Gosh, you guys, these are fantastic questions. So a bee stinger has a barb. So if you think of a fish hook with a little extra hook on it, that's a barb. And the stinger will stay in your skin when the bee flies away. And along with it, takes out a bunch of bee guts. And so that bee can't survive without the stinger and its guts. So it dies. So that's why it's important to just be really slow. Use the smoke, just be very gentle and try not to get stung.
And last question, what is your favorite part about working with bees?
Oh, that's so hard. That's the hardest question of all. I like their social structure. I like how every bee has its own job. They know exactly what to do in the colony. I love the honey. I love it when they swarm. I love everything about them. I'm totally obsessed with bees. So I guess I can't pick my favorite thing.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn, for taking the time to host this virtual field trip and teaching us about honeybees at Oregon State University. And thank you to everyone who participated, students. I know there's a lot of questions still in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them and send the answers to your teachers after the virtual field trip.
Thank you.